They thought wiping out 7 billion of us would end the story. But humanity has never ended quietly. Because on the day the Empire celebrated our extinction, Earth activated something no species was meant to survive, Operation, and the galaxy finally learned why humans were never supposed to be pushed this far. The Silence Protocol, the Confederation of Worlds, had stood for 12,000 years. A union of 47 species bound by trade, diplomacy, and mutual survival. They had seen civilizations rise and fall like waves on an endless shore. They had welcomed newcomers with caution and farewell to the extinct with somber ceremony. They believed they had seen everything the galaxy could offer. They were wrong. Humanity entered the galactic stage in the year 2156, with all the grace of a child learning to walk. Their first faster-than-light vessel, the Pathfinder, limped into Confederation space with failing engines and a crew that had survived on recycled water and hope. The Confederation rescued them, as was customary for species taking their first steps into the cosmos. Chancellor Mira, Belith of the Drayan people, stood before the Confederation Assembly and presented humanity's application for provisional membership. She was ancient by human standards, having lived for 3 centuries, and she had guided dozens of young species through their integration into galactic society. The humans seemed no different from the others, eager and naive, unaware of how small they truly were. The vote passed unanimously. Humanity was granted provisional status with standard restrictions. They could trade in designated zones. They could establish embassies on neutral worlds. They could not possess weapons beyond planetary defense systems. They could not expand beyond their home system without approval. These were the rules that had kept the galaxy peaceful for millennia. Captain James Chen stood in the assembly chamber when the restrictions were read aloud. He was young, only 34, with dark eyes that held an intensity that made Chancellor Velith slightly uncomfortable. When she finished speaking, he raised his hand. "We understand the restrictions," he said, his voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. "But we have a question. What happens if we refuse them?" The chamber fell silent. In 12,000 years, no species had ever asked that question on their first day. Chancellor Velith's expression remained neutral. Though inside she felt the first stirring of something she could not name. Then you would be denied membership and asked to return to your system until you are ready to accept our terms. Captain Chun nodded slowly. He looked at his small delegation, 5 humans who had traveled across the stars to stand in this moment. They seemed to have a conversation without words, something passing between them that the other species could not hear. "We refuse," Chun said simply. The chamber erupted. 47 species began talking at once, their translators creating a cacophony of confusion and disbelief. Chancellor Velith raised her hand for silence, and eventually the noise subsided. "You understand what this means?" she asked. "You will have no protection, no trade agreements, no allies. You will be alone." "We've been alone for 200,000 years, Chun replied. "We can manage a bit longer." The human delegation left that day. Their damaged ship was repaired as a courtesy, and they jumped back toward Earth without looking back. The Confederation watched them go with a mixture of amusement and pity. Another young species too proud for its own good. They would return in a decade or two, humbled by isolation, ready to accept the terms. The Confederation sent monitoring stations to the edge of human space, as was standard procedure. They would keep watch, offer assistance if requested, and wait for the inevitable plea for membership. The years passed. The monitoring stations reported normal activity. Human ships moved within their system, building infrastructure, establishing colonies on their neighboring planets. Nothing unusual. Nothing concerning. Then, in the year 2171, the monitoring stations went silent. All of them, simultaneously. Chancellor Velith, now even older but no less sharp, reviewed the reports with growing concern. 17 monitoring stations, spread across the boundary of human space, had stopped transmitting at exactly the same moment. No distress signals. No warnings. Just silence. She dispatched a Confederation investigation fleet 12 ships crewed by the best officers in the Alliance. They jumped to the edge of human space and found the monitoring stations intact but empty. Every piece of equipment was untouched. Every system was functional. But there were no bodies, no signs of struggle, no evidence of what had happened to the crew's dot and Andre station. Someone had left a message in the Confederation's common language, written in precise letters on the command deck floor. Thank you for watching. We'll take it from here. The investigation fleet sent their report and requested instructions. Chancellor Veleth ordered them to attempt contact with Earth. They sent messages on every frequency using every protocol. They received no response. 40 years passed. Humanity did not reach out. They did not trade. They did not expand beyond their system. They simply existed behind an invisible wall of silence that the Confederation could not penetrate. Ships that tried to enter human space never returned. Probes that crossed the boundaries stopped transmitting. Messages went unanswered. It was as if humanity had drawn a line across the stars and dared the galaxy to cross it. Confederation debated endlessly. Some called for military intervention. Others urged patience. A few suggested that humanity had destroyed itself, and the silence was simply the echo of extinction. Chancellor Veleth, now in her final years, stood before the assembly one last time. Her scales had faded to pale silver, and her movements were slow with age. "We have made a mistake," she said, her voice still strong despite her years. "We treated them as we treated all the others. We assumed they would follow the pattern. We were wrong. What do you suggest?" Asked the Denari representative, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline matrix. Veleth looked toward the star charts, toward the small yellow star that humanity called Sol. "I suggest we find out what they have become before it is too late." She died 3 days later, never knowing if her warning would be heeded. The Confederation finally voted to send one final mission into human space. A single ship, the Mediator, crewed by volunteers who understood they might never return. Their orders were simple: make contact with humanity and discover what had happened during the 40 years of silence. The Mediator jumped to the edge of human space and began broadcasting messages of peace. This time, humanity answered. "Welcome," a voice said in perfect Confederation standard. "We've been expecting you." The crew of the Mediator felt relief flood through them. Humanity was alive. Humanity was willing to talk. Then their sensors detected what was waiting for them at the coordinates humanity had provided, and relief turned to ice-cold fear. What humanity had become during those 40 years of silence was not what anyone had expected. It was not what anyone had imagined possible, and the galaxy would never be the same. The architects of tomorrow, the Mediator's sensors struggled to process what they were detecting. Commander Sareth Cohn, a Vryn officer with 2 centuries of military experience, stared at the readouts with disbelief etched across his angular features. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Yara Moss, a human who had been born on the Confederation colony world, stood beside him with her mouth slightly open. "That's impossible," she whispered. Before them, floating in the darkness of space, was a structure that defied everything the Confederation knew about engineering and physics. It was a sphere perfectly smooth, approximately the size of Earth's moon. It pulsed with a soft blue light that seemed to come from within the material itself. The sensors reported that it was not made of any known element. It existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. And it was alive. "This is the Mediator to human vessel," Commander Cohn transmitted, forcing his voice to remain steady. "We are receiving unusual readings. Please clarify your position." The response came immediately, not through their communication systems, but directly into their minds. Every crew member on the Mediator heard the voice at the same moment, calm and impossibly clear. "We are the synthesis. We are humanity. And we are here." Lieutenant Moss gripped the edge of her console. "Commander, I'm detecting movement." Multiple signatures emerging from the structure. Ships began to appear around the sphere, They did not fly from docking bays or materialize from jump drives. They simply became visible, as if they had always been there and the crew was only now capable of perceiving them. Hundreds of vessels, each one unique, each one radiating the same strange energy as the sphere itself. 40 years ago, the boys continued in their minds, your confederation offered us a choice. Accept limitation or face isolation. We chose a third option. We chose evolution. Commander Cohen found his voice. What have you done? We have answered the question that every species asks, but few dare to pursue. What comes after biology? What lies beyond the constraints of flesh and time and physical law? We have found the answer. A single ship detached from the formation and approached the mediator. It was small, elegant, shaped like a teardrop of liquid silver. As it drew closer, a figure appeared on the mediator's view screen. It looked human, a woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. But there was something in her expression that spoke of vast knowledge and infinite patience. My name was Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, she said. Speaking now through conventional communication, I was a neuroscientist on Earth. I died of cancer in 2158. That should have been the end of my story. Lieutenant Moss stepped forward. But it wasn't. No, Dr. Okonkwo agreed. Because humanity asked a different question. Instead of asking how to cure death, we asked why death exists at all. Instead of accepting the limitations of our biology, we asked what we could become if we transcended it. Commander Cohen felt a chill run through his body. You uploaded your consciousness. You abandoned your physical forms. Dr. Okonkwo shook her head gently. Not abandoned, Commander. Expanded. We did not leave our bodies behind. We integrated them into something greater. Every human who entered the synthesis retained their individuality, their memories, their essence. But we also gained access to collective knowledge, collective experience, collective capability. She gestured, and the view screen changed. It showed Earth, beautiful and blue, but different. The planet was surrounded by a network of golden light, streams of energy that flowed between the surface and structures in orbit. We built the evolution engine, Dr. Okonkwo continued. It took us 15 years. We poured every resource, every mind, every dream into its creation. It is a device that allows consciousness to exist independent of biological substrate while maintaining the spark that makes us who we are. Why? Lieutenant Moss asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Why would you do this? Dr. Okonkwo's expression became sad, almost wistful. Because we looked at the galaxy and saw the pattern. Every species reaches a certain level of advancement and then stops. You create your confederations and your empires, your trade routes and your treaties. You maintain peace through restriction and control. You survive, but you do not grow. Growth leads to conflict, Commander Cohn argued. Every species that has pursued unlimited expansion has either destroyed itself or been destroyed by others. The restrictions exist for a reason. Yes, Dr. Okonkwo agreed. They exist because biological species are limited by resources, by territory, by the physical constraints of material existence. When you need planets to live on and food to eat and space to expand into, then yes, growth leads to conflict. She smiled. But we do not need these things anymore. We do not consume. We do not conquer. We do not compete for resources that are finite. We exist in the spaces between spaces. We draw energy from the quantum foam of reality itself. We are limited only by the boundaries of mathematics. The view screen changed again, showing images that made the crew of the Mediator gasp. Vast structures that existed in dimensions their sensors could barely detect. Technologies that bent space and time like clay. Vessels that moved faster than light without engines. Simply by willing themselves to be in a different location. In 40 years, Dr. Okonkwo said quietly, we have advanced further than the Confederation has in 12,000. We have solved problems your scientists considered impossible. We have built wonders that your philosophers never dreamed of. And we have done it without harming a single living being. Commander Cohen felt something he had not felt in his 2 centuries of life. true fear. Not fear of violence or aggression, but fear of irrelevance. Fear of being left behind by a species that had leaped so far ahead that they might as well be gods. What do you want from us? He asked. Dr. Okonkwo's smile faded. We want nothing, Commander. We are self-sufficient beyond your comprehension. But we also understand that our existence poses a question to the Confederation. We are no longer the species you met 40 years ago. We are something new, something unprecedented, and you must decide how to respond. The Confederation will see you as a threat, Lieutenant Mosshud. They will fear what you have become. We know, Dr. Okonkwo replied. That is why we answered your call. That is why we allowed you to find us. We could have remained hidden forever, existing in dimensions you cannot perceive. But we remember what it means to be human. We remember compassion. We remember the value of connection, even with those who are different from us. She leaned forward and her eyes seemed to look directly into Commander Cohn's soul. Your Confederation maintains peace through limitation. You prevent conflict by ensuring that no species becomes too powerful. It is a system that has worked for 12 millennia. But it is also a system that prevents growth. That keeps every species trapped at the same level of development forever. And you want to change that, Commander Cohn said. We want to offer a choice, Dr. Okonkwo corrected. Any species that wishes to join the synthesis may do so. We will share our technology, our knowledge, our process. We will help them transcend their limitations. Or they may remain as they are. We will not force anyone. We will not conquer. We will simply exist and offer an alternative to eternal stagnation. Commander Cohn looked at Lieutenant Moss. She was staring at the view screen with an expression he could not read. Longing? Fear? Hope? Perhaps all three. The Confederation will never accept this, he said. They will see it as a threat to everything they have built. Then they will respond as they always have, Dr. Okonkwo said sadly. They will attempt to contain us, to limit us, to force us back into the patterns they understand. The silver ship began to retreat, moving back toward the massive sphere. Return to your people, Commander Cohn, Dr. Okonkwo said. Tell them what you have seen. Tell them what humanity has become. And tell them that we are not their enemies. But we will not be limited. Not anymore. Not ever again. The view screen went dark. The ships around the sphere vanished as suddenly as they had appeared. Only the massive structure remained, pulsing with that soft blue light. Commander Cohn stood in silence for a long moment. Then he turned to his crew. Set course for Confederation space, he said. Maximum speed. The Council needs to know what we've discovered. As the meteor turned and jumped away, Commander Cohn could not shake the feeling that they were not fleeing toward safety. They were carrying news that would shatter everything the Confederation believed. And he had no idea what would happen next behind them, in the darkness of human space. The synthesis watched them go and waited the price of underestimation. The Confederation Council chamber had never been so divided. For 3 weeks, the representatives of 47 species had debated, argued, and deliberated over Commander Cohn's report. The chamber, usually a place of measured diplomacy and careful consensus, had become a battleground of fear and philosophy. High Counselor Thane Verix, who had succeeded Chancellor Veloth, stood at the center of the circular chamber. He was Korvathi, a species known for their logic and strategic thinking. His 4 eyes scanned the assembled representatives with growing frustration. We cannot allow this to continue, declared Ambassador Krell of the Thorn Collective, his crystalline body refracting the chamber's light into angry shards of color. Humanity has violated the fundamental principles of galactic order. They have developed technology without oversight, without limitation, without regard for the dangers they pose to all of us. They pose no danger, countered Representative Lena Moreau, one of the few humans who served in the Confederation government. She had been born on a colony world and had never seen Earth, but she felt the weight of defending her species regardless. They have not attacked anyone. They have not expanded into anyone's territory. They have simply changed themselves. That is precisely the problem, Ambassador Krell shot back. They have changed beyond our ability to understand or predict. How can we coexist with a species that exists in dimensions we cannot perceive? How can we trust beings who have transcended the very nature of life itself? High Counselor Varix raised his hands for silence. The question before us is not one of trust, but of response. Commander Cohn's report is clear. Humanity has offered to share their technology with any species that wishes to join their synthesis. If we do nothing, other species may accept that offer. The Confederation as we know it could fragment. Then we must act decisively, said General Thorin of the Rin Military Command. He was a massive being, scaled and powerful, representing a warrior culture that had maintained peace through strength for millennia. We assemble the Confederation fleet. We quarantine human space completely. We make it clear that any species attempting to join the synthesis will be expelled from the Confederation. Representative Moreau stood abruptly. You're talking about military action against a species that has done nothing wrong. You're talking about threatening war because humanity chose a different path. We are talking about survival, General Thorin rumbled. The Confederation exists because we maintain balance. If one species becomes infinitely more powerful than all others, balance is destroyed. Chaos follows. High Counselor Varix looked around the chamber. He could see the fear in their faces, all 47 species united by one thing, the terror of being left behind. The terror of obsolescence. We will vote, he announced. All in favor of military containment of human space. 43 hands, claws, tentacles, and energy fields rose in agreement. Opposed? Only 4 representatives voted against it, including Representative Moreau. The motion carries, High Counselor Varix said heavily. General Thorin, you will assemble the largest fleet in Confederation history. You will establish a complete blockade around human space. Nothing enters. Nothing leaves. And if humanity attempts to expand beyond their boundaries, you will use whatever force is necessary to stop them. Representative Moreau stood alone as the chamber emptied. She activated her personal communicator and sent a message into the void, toward the distant star system that had birthed her ancestors. She did not know if they would receive it. She did not know if they would care, but she sent it anyway. They're coming. I'm sorry. 3 months later, the Confederation Armada arrived at the edge of human space. It was a sight that had not been seen in 12,000 years. Every species in the Confederation had contributed ships, resulting in a fleet of over 10,000 vessels. They represented the combined military might of 47 civilizations. General Thorin stood on the bridge of the flagship, eternal vigilance, and surveyed his forces with grim satisfaction. This fleet could conquer star systems. It could shatter planets. It could face any threat the galaxy had ever known. Broadcast our ultimatum, he ordered. The message went out on all frequencies. In all languages. Humanity, you are in violation of galactic order. You will cease all development of transcendence technology. You will submit to Confederation oversight. You will accept limitations on your advancement. Failure to comply will result in the use of force. You have 24 hours to respond. 24 hours passed in tense silence. Then, precisely at the deadline, space itself seemed to ripple. The massive sphere appeared before the fleet. But it was different now. Larger. More complex. It pulsed with colors that hurt to look at. Wavelengths that biological eyes were never meant to perceive. And Dr. Sarah, Okonkwo's voice filled every ship simultaneously. Calm and tinged with sadness. General Thorin, we received your ultimatum. We also received Representative Moreau's warning 3 months ago. We appreciate her concern, though it was unnecessary. We have known you were coming since the moment your council voted to send you. General Thorin felt his scales prickle with unease. Then you know our demands? You will submit to Confederation authority, or we will force compliance. No, Dr. Okonkwo said simply. You will not. The general's jaw tightened. We have 10,000 ships. We have weapons that can sterilize planets. Do not test our resolve. We are not testing anything, General. We are simply informing you of reality. You cannot force us to do anything. You cannot threaten us. You cannot harm us. And most importantly, you cannot stop what is already happening. What do you mean? Demanded High Counselor Varix, who was monitoring the situation from the Confederation capital. The view screens across the fleet changed. They showed images from across Confederation space. On dozens of worlds, members of various species were gathering around structures that had appeared overnight. Structures that pulsed with the same blue light as the human sphere. We offered a choice, Dr. Oko explained. Over the past 3 months, while you were assembling your fleet, we were building evolution engines on every world that requested one. 17 species have asked to join the synthesis. Billions of individuals have chosen transcendence. You're destroying the Confederation. General Thorin roared. No, Dr. Okonkwo corrected gently. We are offering freedom. The Confederation has kept the galaxy stable for 12,000 years by ensuring that no one could rise too high. It has been peace through enforced mediocrity. We are offering an alternative. Fire all weapons. General Thorin commanded 10,000 ships open fire simultaneously. Energy beams, missiles, plasma cannons, and weapons from 47 different military traditions converge on the sphere. The sphere absorbed every attack without so much as a flicker. We do not wish to harm you, Dr. Okonkwo said, but we will demonstrate why your threats are meaningless. The sphere pulsed once, and every weapon system in the Confederation fleet simply stopped working. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Just deactivated, as if someone had flipped a switch across 10,000 ships simultaneously. Your technology is like children's toys to us, Dr. Okonkwo continued. We exist in dimensions you cannot perceive. We manipulate forces you cannot measure. We have transcended the limitations that make your weapons possible. You cannot fight us because we are not fighting back. We are simply beyond you. General Thorin stared at his useless controls, feeling a humiliation deeper than any wound. But we remember being where you are, Dr. Okonkwo said, her voice softening. We remember fear and limitation and the desperate need to control what we do not understand. That is why we are not your enemies. We are your future, if you choose to accept it. High Counselor Varix's voice came through the communication system, defeated and hollow. What happens now? Now you make a choice, Dr. Okonkwo replied. The Confederation can continue as it has, maintaining stability through restriction. Those who wish to remain biological, who find meaning in limitation, will always have that option. We will not force anyone to join us. She paused. But you cannot stop those who choose transcendence. You cannot hold back evolution with warships. The species that wish to grow beyond their current forms will do so, and you must accept that the galaxy you have known for 12,000 years is changing. The sphere began to fade from perception, moving into dimensions the fleet could not follow. We will be here, Dr. Okonkwo's voice echoed as she vanished. When you are ready to let go of your fear, when you are ready to see what lies beyond limitation, we will be waiting. Humanity learned that the hard way. We were forced to choose between submission and isolation. We chose to transcend both options, and now we offer that same choice to everyone, not as conquerors, but as teachers, not as masters, but as guides. The decision belongs to each individual, each species, each civilization. Her final words hung in the silence. Choose wisely. The universe is far larger and stranger than the Confederation ever allowed you to imagine. The fleet floated helplessly in space, their weapons dead, their pride shattered. General Thorin sat in his command chair and realized that everything he had fought for, everything the Confederation represented, had become obsolete in a single moment. On distant worlds, beings of all species stood before the evolution engines and made their choices. Some stepped forward into transcendence. Others turned away, content with the limitations they knew. And in the depths of human space, the synthesis continued to grow. A civilization that had learned the hardest lesson of all. The species that dared to limit humanity had taught humanity to become limitless. The Confederation would never be the same. Neither would the galaxy. 40 years of silence had given birth to something unprecedented. And the cosmos would spend the next 1,000 years learning to live with what humanity had become. The age of enforced limitation was over. The age of chosen transcendence had begun. And somewhere in the quantum spaces between dimensions, Dr. Sarah Okonkwo smiled, remembering the cancer that should have killed her, and the species that had refused to accept death as an ending. Humanity had not just survived. They had evolved, and they had done it on their own terms.